In this video, we are going to be doing an overview of a mech which is often forgotten about, even among its lesser-known 2750 and 3025 revised counterparts. Frankly, its original appearance may have had something to do with it, more so than its simple, standard design. Still, some might argue that it does suffer from being a 40-ton battlemech, a tonnage which few beloved mechs descend from. Without further delay though, let us talk about Defiance Industries' export success, the Sentinel. A medium mech weighing in at 40 tons, the Sentinel is a design which tries to strike its own path in the immediate weight bracket it finds itself in. Just as fast as the Clint, but more heavily armored while lacking its jump jets. On the other side, it is less armored than the Hermes too, while having superior firepower to both of them. At least upon its release. The Sentinel was one of the most capable 40-ton mechs of its introductory era. Another fascinating note is how it relates to Defiance Industries and its own evolution. Defiance Industries may have operated in-house Steiner in the 27th century, but it was in fact majority owned by Terran organizations and individuals, and reflected this often in how it might produce and deploy Battlemechs. The Sentinel is a great example of this, where the domestic Lyran variant received inferior technology as compared to the technology of the export model, which was shipped directly to the Star League. In fact, when the Commonwealth eventually did get their hands on the more sophisticated variants, from supposedly their own domestic producer, they received them in smaller numbers and at a slower rate than expected. Defiance would functionally change hands with the annihilation of the Terran state, though by then much of their ability to produce the more sophisticated Sentinels and other machines was lost. A limited run of the more primitive designs would be produced on and off throughout the Succession Wars, but it was an uncommon design to say the least, and often its downgraded form was viewed as being inferior to the contemporaries of the Succession Wars, and unneeded. Production would halt altogether in the early years of the 31st century, though it would spring back to life after the discovery of the Helm memory core. Perhaps unsurprisingly, however, Comstar would operate the Star League model in secret, and they would see battle against the clans on Tukiad against a much more sophisticated foe. The most prominently produced variant of the Sentinel during the Star League was the STN-3L, which we will be looking over now. It's important to note that the 3L came 1 year after the 1S, which was by and large forgotten by history and is viewed as a horrendous design. Powered by a massive 11.5-ton, 240 pitband fusion standard engine, the Sentinel can be propelled up the field at an impressive 97 km per hour, or 9 movement points in the tabletop game. This is a heavy price to pay for speed, but speed is life in many ways in Battletech, and thus spending such a significant total on it can yield significant dividends. The Sentinel can move in and out of hostile action without much worry, and this can play well into its long-range primary weapon, as well as its ability to defend itself by making it harder to be hit through speed modifiers. Though it lacks jump jets to add maneuverability as compared to the Clint, this isn't necessarily bad in how it's meant to operate. Without much tonnage to spare, and without almost any heat generated from its weapons, the 3L has 10 stock standard heat sinks, which is more than adequate for its needs. The most sophisticated thing about the 3L is its primary and frankly only noteworthy armament. It comes equipped with what was, at the time, the cutting edge of autocannon technology, a KWI AC-5 class Ultra autocannon. While this cannon weighs in at 10 tons including its ammunition complement, which is 1/4 of the mech's overall weight, this versatile long-range cannon can lay down withering fire on vehicles, and is deadly against other medium and light battlemechs. When used in conjunction with its speed, this long-range weapon can be put to exceptional use, especially when the pilot uses its limited ammunition wisely. To back up this rapid-fire cannon, the 3L comes with a Defiant Streak SRM-2 launcher and a Defiance B1A small laser. These weapons are frankly afterthoughts in the broad scheme of things in comparison to the rest of the design, but it does give the Sentinel some options to defend itself in close, should it desperately need it, or should it be out of ammunition or needing to withdraw. To conclude our broad view of the various independent properties of the Sentinel, we are going to be looking at its physical defenses, namely its 5.5 tons of standard armor. Unfortunately for the Sentinel, this is in fact edging towards the lower end of protection for its weight, though it would be a stretch to say that it's inadequate given its battlefield role. All the same, the Sentinel will need to be careful to avoid taking fire, and will need to use its speed to mitigate that risk. Otherwise, it can rapidly be degraded and destroyed, especially with ammunition in both of its side torsos. The 3L is an interesting design, though it is a flawed one. While it can use speed and its exceptional range provided by its more than substantial Ultra AC-5, it lacks any kind of adequate close-range weapons package to defend itself, and is minimally armored for its weight. While the latter two don't sink the design by any means, it does mean that the 3L needs to approach battlefield situations in a way that benefits it, namely acting as a fast, direct fire support mech. This benefits the design as a redeployable asset as well on the strategic level. It's not a mech that is going to be covered in glory, but perhaps the light and medium formations that have this mech come riding to the rescue in their time of need may see that differently. But the story of the Sentinel doesn't end with its venerable resurrected Star League variant. Upgrades and redesigns have come to this long-range veteran, and these are a select few to consider. The STN-3K would be a downgrade of the 3L during the Succession Wars, and ironically as well, an upgrade for the 1S. Due to the Sentinel largely only originally using advanced weapons and not advanced systems, it was perhaps thought that it could be easily downgraded, and while this is the case, it did not yield the most competitive results. It does have two things over the original design, and unironically so. To start with, it increases its ammunition to 2 tons in totality, giving it 40 turns of fire for its downgraded AC-5 autocannon, and it has 6 full tons of armor rather than 5.5. Despite this, however, the 3K was considered to be an underperformer and was only produced in low numbers before Defiance discontinued the design altogether in the early 31st century. It should be noted that several other variants existed that replaced the AC-5 with energy weapons, and while these were effective, they did not prevent the eventual closure of the production lines for the STN. In comparison to the 3K, a design which even cohabitated with the 3L during the Star League, there is another Star League design that must be mentioned, which is one of the most horrifying 40-ton mechs in the history of warfare. That is namely the STN-3LB, the Royal variant. Its standard 240 is replaced with an XL engine, and endo steel as well as ferrule fibrous is added to the design, all to save weight in order to replace the Ultra AC-5 autocannon with one of the most terrifying weapons of its time, and still one of the most terrifying weapons of later generations. That is namely a 15-ton Gauss rifle. In adding this, it replaces out the SRM system for a single medium laser, just as a final note. The 3LB does the exact role of its predecessor, only better, and with a far more lethal weapons package. For the latest era though, the Sentinel would be given a hybrid design by its original manufacturer, Defiance, in its latest form. The Dark Age and Ilkon era would see the STN-6S come into service, with a design doubling down on its long-range weapons. To start with, it comes with a clan-spec'd 240 XL engine and an XL gyro, freeing up weight for other systems. It maintains its original Ultra autocannon, but uses a clan-grade ER medium laser, as well as twin Thunderbolt 5 long-range missiles. Finally, its ammunition is protected by a Case 2 system, increasing its survivability on the battlefield. The Sentinel 6S configuration is a deadly 40-ton mech, hammering its opposition at range with a series of ammunition-fed weapons, chipping away at their opponents while keeping its distance with its speed. The Sentinel is an ever-evolving design. Despite it not being the most recognizable frontline battlemech in history, it is an important vehicle in the context of the history of the Star League, Defiance Industries, and even House Steiner. It's also a mech that, when designed, used the most advanced weapon systems, and its later models would embrace the use of cutting-edge technology to increase its ability to function on the battlefield. Able to support light and medium formations with speed and firepower, the Sentinel does this job well, even if it has shortcomings in some of the realms outside of its designated tasks. Still, that's not too bad for an export model. Thank you for joining me here today. If you enjoyed this video, please hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. There is new content on this channel very frequently, and I'd appreciate your support. Also, a huge thank you to all the members who support this channel, as these videos are possible because of viewers like you. With that, I will catch everyone in the comment section below.